All right, we'll get this meeting started. It's our Finance Committee meeting. We are going to open up the meeting by doing a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Miss Erica, when you're ready, get us started.
Madam Chair, before Erica gets started, I want to say that this budget process started for us in August. We started having conversations about our needs and how can we reduce budget. So it's been ongoing, and that'll be pretty evident tonight when we look at the information with that. And then I just want to say again to Erica, thank you, one, for, and as a cabinet, we've met every month almost on the budget. But thank you, Erica, for your knowledge and for your leadership and helping us to understand the budget and following all that. And you're going to see an outstanding presentation tonight, Ms. Fields, that I think answers on the questions that you sent. That'll be part of this process. And we do ask that any questions, stop for clarification. I've asked the cabinet to chime in. Again, we've been ongoing all year with that. Erica?
Good evening, Chairman Fields, Chairman Britt, and board members, and Dr. Williamson. I hope you'll indulge me for just a minute. Since it is Teacher Appreciation Week, I've seen we have a post that asks people to say who their favorite teacher is. So I had many favorite teachers. Miss Jennifer Williams, my kindergarten teacher, Miss Carolyn Peterkin, my algebra teacher in high school, but my favorite was Miss Mary Davenport at Fairgrove Elementary. She was my 5th grade teacher, and love her to this day. Took my children to her home long after I graduated to trick or treat, and she's always had a special place in my heart. So thank you for that.
Erica, now you do realize all your other teachers are listening.
I know.
And they're probably
my
gonna
husband's
change
a
the
teacher,
grades.
so I didn't name him either, but he's my favorite too. But they do an outstanding job, and teachers really make a difference. We all know that and see that, and I hope they truly have felt that this week and every week. I know it's a struggle, but we do appreciate everything, and they do touch the lives of many children. I wanted to start by reading the superintendent's budget message, and then we'll get right into the 25-26 budget. So the proposed budget message is actually for the planning for next year. And it reads, Dear Chairman Britt and members of the Public Schools of Robeson County Board of Education, I respectfully present the 26-27 superintendent's proposed budget and request county appropriations to support the continued success of the public schools of Robeson County. The backdrop we are facing going into the new budget season is no federal planning budget. So as I stand here before you, this is not part of the message. This is me talking. As I stand here today, we still have not received federal planning allotments for next school year. We were supposed to receive them by the end of Monday, May the 4th, but we still do not have them in hand. No state budget. Benefit increases, insurance premium increases, decreasing ADM, transportation cost increases, EC services increase, contracted services increase, and local revenue has not aligned with increases requiring cuts. Robeson County has long recognized that strong public schools are essential to a thriving community. This community's sustained investment in public education has helped build one of the most successful school systems in North Carolina, one that attracts families, supports a strong workforce, and contributes to the economic vitality and quality of life that define Robeson County. This year's budget arrives amid considerable uncertainty. The financial environment facing our school district is shaped by several factors beyond our control, including rising operational costs and evolving federal and state funding conditions.
Excuse me, Miss Erica, I'm sorry. Terry, Mr. Terry has a question, and I'm trying to figure out the.
I'm sorry.
I was just wondering if someone could email me the documents, please.
Can you email Mr. Terry the documents?
Okay. I think Miss Melissa's going to take care of that. Thank you, Melissa. Okay. Including rising operational costs and evolving federal and state funding conditions. At the same time, our community continues to expect and our students deserve the high level of educational opportunities so they will be future ready. We continue to face challenges due to the underfunding of public schools. The state Supreme Court's decision to throw out the long-running educational lawsuit, Leandro, could eliminate a future funding source. It should be noted that PSRC serves 86% of eligible students in the county, clearly demonstrating that many of our parents see the public schools as the best option. Each year, maintaining current service levels becomes more expensive. Rising costs for staffing, benefits, transportation, utilities, and essential operations continue to increase pressure on the district's operating budget. We are exploring a performance contract to help address operating costs. This budget includes targeted reductions and operational adjustments to responsibly manage costs while preserving the core educational services that support teaching and learning in our schools. We recognize that every reduction affects our families, students, and the dedicated staff who serve them each day. The partnership between the Robeson County Board of Education and the Robeson County Board of Commissioners has been instrumental in building the educational opportunities available to our students today. The investments made by local allocations will help prepare students for college, careers, and civic life while strengthening the economic and social fabric of Robeson County. As you review this proposal, we appreciate your continued leadership and thoughtful consideration. Together, we share a common goal, ensuring that every student in PSRC has access to the opportunities and support needed to succeed in school and life. Thank you for your ongoing commitment to the student, staff, and families of Robeson County. Sincerely, Dr. Freddie Williamson, Superintendent Erica Setzer, Chief Finance Officer. So now we're going to move forward with the 25-26 budget. And I have to start by saying this is much later than I normally submit a budget, and I do apologize for that. But as we all know, the state of North Carolina did not approve a budget this year. So we kept waiting to see, since I'm responsible for implementing the budget, if there would be something else that came, if there was a raise, if there was anything else that we'd have to do. So we'd only have to do that work one time. And obviously, we're at the point where we're pretty sure they're not going to submit a budget. So some of the highlights of the 25-26 budget, which you have in front of you, and I recognize you're only seeing it now, but it's 58 pages that detail all the funding sources and expenditures we have in the current year. If you would take a look at the document that says PSRC 26-27 planning budget, that first page summarizes everything that I have in that detailed document. So the total budget we're looking at for 25-26, thank you, Cole, is $341 million. The bulk of that, almost 57%, is from our state public school fund, 7.28% from current expense, 13.34% from federal programs, 15.68% capital outlay, and 7% in capital outlay. I'm sorry, in enterprise funds. You know, capital outlay is higher. That is a much higher number than we normally experience because of the school we're building right now. So we have a huge increase in our capital budget. Capital budget normally runs anywhere between 10 and 13 million, but we're at 53 million this year because of the expenses included for the Career and Technical Education School.
Erica, if you
Yes.
would, for the public, define enterprise.
Enterprise are what we consider funding sources that have to be self-sustaining. So all the revenue that they take in, it has to be responsible for all of their expenses. That would specifically include the child nutrition department, Shining Stars preschool, and the prime time program, or our before and after school care funds. And again, that's just why all of our students are on community CEP, where they get free and they get free breakfast and lunch. And so we always, anytime anybody asks about enterprise, I always want to take that as an opportunity to encourage our students to get a meal at school. Please get that meal. That's the only way we get reimbursed. So participation is key at all of our locations, and the meal is free. So please pick it up. And that is the only way that we continue to get reimbursed. Also, that federal reimbursement rate doesn't necessarily keep up with the rising salary and benefits costs that the state of North Carolina implements. So that's another reason why we stress that Ms. Charlene and her staff do a great job. We just heard an audit there last month. But as I said, those two don't necessarily match. So rising food costs and the salaries impact her budget, but she has to be responsible there for covering all the costs with the revenue brought in. I also included in the summary, I like to break it down by purpose and object. I won't necessarily go over that unless anybody wants me to specifically, but that just shows you what areas that the budget's spent on, instructional versus system-wide and so forth. Almost 61% goes to direct instruction that for classroom instruction and student-facing services. By object, I know it's always important to know the salary and benefit breakdown versus contracted services and other expenses. And then on that summary page, you also see the changes to our ADM within the last 6 years. So beginning in 2021-22, we were at 20,961. We experienced a slight increase in 23-24, but after every year, there's been a considerable drop, and projection for next year, which I'll get in more detail once we go to the planning version for next year, is an additional 440 students. So that represents slightly over a 2% reduction for us as we're looking into next year. Some of the highlights of the no budget that occurred this year with the state of North Carolina: there were no across-the-board pay raises. Employees were only eligible to receive a step increase. So obviously there were employees who did receive one and employees who didn't. If anybody knows what the teacher pay scale looks like right now, step 15 through step 24 are the exact same pay. So any teacher that falls within that area did not experience a pay increase in their checks at all this year. Another thing that was implemented this year for our teachers that began with their December paycheck was the state health plan began charging premiums based on a salary range. So all the employees in PSRC pay a different amount for the same health insurance based on their salary band that they fall into. So there's no longer a flat amount depending on if you're single, with family, and or dependents. It also varies based on your salary, and that will continue as long as the state health plan implements that. That was new for this year as well. So not only did we have employees who didn't see a pay raise, they actually saw more money coming out of their check for a covered benefit. The retirement match.
Hold on, Miss Erica.
Sorry.
Miss Dr. Emanuel has a question. Will you hit
Yes,
your
ma'am.
mic, Dr. Emanuel? All right, there we go. Next up, okay. Thank you.
It's on now, Dr. Emanuel.
Okay, this is for clarification. Regardless of the year's experience that teachers have in our district, regardless of the steps, we don't have to pay. The state automatically pays for that. In other words, there's nothing off our bill. In other words, whatever you submit, our teachers, number of years experience, the steps, we're not penalized. The state automatically pays that. Is that correct or not correct?
That is correct to an extent. That's correct up to the number of positions we have, and they don't even call it positions anymore. We now converted this year to days, so we have to track teachers' salaries by days now. But it used to be one position. It didn't matter if that teacher was at the step 0 at 41,000 or at master's with 30 years at 59,720. It just cost us one position. That part's correct. But we only are allotted so many positions, and we do have some schools that have positions out of dollar allotments like low wealth or DSSF, and those do cost us. But if they are in a position allotment, the state is going to cover that. But if they're in a dollar allotment, we have to make that work within that budget. And the state broke out 001, so we don't only have 001 now. We also have 004, So they wanted to be able to track resource teachers at the K-5 level separately. That's new within the last 2 years. Everybody used to be lumped into 001, but now we have 001 and 004 because there was a push at one time to be able to see the resource teachers separately. And resource is defined as PE, art, dance, music, and world language.
Follow up.
Mhm.
So that's the reason at one point in time, they would try to get the cheapest teacher out of Title I.
That's
In other
correct.
words, the one with 1 year experience, 2 years, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
That's correct.
Okay.
And also, as we look, which as I've indicated, we don't have federal planning, but if the state gives a 5% increase and the benefits raised by 5%, our federal allotment's not going to change. The federal allocation does not change based on what the state of North Carolina does. So we also have to account for any changes that the state implements, because we obviously have to treat all employees the same, but we're not going to get any additional funds in our federal allotments to implement that.
One more follow-up and I'll be finished. Okay, when we do for lack of, I don't remember, tell me the right name, instructional what, coaches? Okay, what funds are they paid out of?
Instructional coaches are paid out of PRC 001.
What does that mean?
Where the classroom teachers are paid from, the position allotments. So they're covered by a position.
So, okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
If I may, Dr. Emmanuel, and I know there's some conversation around our academic coaches. In your package, we placed for you to show why we need that. Jamal, can you identify that, why that position is so critical for us?
And while Jamal is doing that, Mr. Terry said he doesn't have his documents yet. Miss Melissa, did you?
They just came in.
Okay.
And I apologize, Dr. Locklear. I didn't consider who was not going to be remote. I'm sorry. We'll do better.
It's okay. Good. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Chairman, Christy Fields, and board members. In your packet, I have listed, I've given you a chart with our beginning teachers who have the list of beginning teachers from 2024 to 2025, and this year is 25-26. And it's very important you see that number, because you'll see that in last school year, we had 406 beginning teachers. Of that 406 beginning teachers, 281 had alternate license, meaning these are people who did not come in with teaching backgrounds. They did not go to school to be teachers. This is probably their second career or another career, that they've chosen. And so this year we've seen 353 beginning teachers with 255 teachers with alternate license. Once again, this is very important because, once again, these individuals are not coming with educational backgrounds, which means they need that additional support to know how to do lesson planning, data walks, data meetings, internalizing lesson plans. They need that additional support for that. And you see it with our district, our size, we are having a lot of beginning teachers who don't have that teacher background that need that additional support. So I want to make sure I included that particular information in your sheet, so you'll be aware of what we're dealing with and the level of support that we have to provide to our teachers in our buildings each day. And furthermore, I want to say this last thing. We're going through our beginning teacher of the year nominations. And as I was going through those nominations, every single beginning teacher commented on the level of support that they've been provided their first year. And they were so thankful for those academic coaches walking through, showing them how to do lesson plans, showing them how to do data meetings, showing them how to do that support, classroom management, things of that nature, doing separate individualized meetings with them and coaching with them. Every last person who are going through that beginning teacher of the year process spoke to that. And so that's also been our selling piece with new teachers coming into our district, that we tell them that you have a person in your building who will support you. As we've been doing our meetings with UNCP, the Brave Scholars, that's one thing they look forward to hear, and they talk about, and they ask questions about our beginning teacher support. And that's been a major selling piece for PSRC for the past several years, is that we have a person dedicated in that building to support our beginning teachers. And once again, this data shows you why those individuals are so important to us.
Dr. Carr, if you will, please. So if you remember, we changed from mentors that we had that was restricted in terms of what they could do to the academic coaches and with no restriction. Talk about what they do. And we've gained so much by having them and changing from mentors to academic coaches.
So as academic coaches, what we have is somebody that walks side by side with every teacher. So it allows them to go into classrooms and work with teachers directly to model for them in the classroom what it should look like. If I'm a struggling teacher, if I need behavior support, how do I handle behaviors in the classroom? How to write a lesson plan. They meet with them weekly for data meetings and lesson planning meetings so that they can look at their data and determine what do they need to change in their instruction to meet the needs of their kids. So it's somebody that really spends the time to say, what do you need? And also, what am I observing in your classroom that's going on so I know how to better help you? And so they're really that partner in those classrooms with a lot of our teachers. And a lot of times they even end up with, sometimes we have subs, they'll write lesson plans, they'll jump in and teach a group of kids. So we have academic coaches that are actually doing intervention groups on top of coaching the teachers. So they're really part of that community to help work along and sometimes co-teach with our teachers. So by just not being a mentor, that's somebody that can just check in once in a while, they're able to every day step into those classrooms and help support them. And they also help them with testing. So you think about Amplify testing, Read to Achieve testing, they're part of that community to help them understand. And they're also the part, because they come monthly to us, they help us roll out professional development. So if there's something new coming down, like for example, we know the new standards are coming for ELA and we'll all be trained in June, our coaches are vital to help us then train them so they can roll it out into all 36 buildings.
Dr. Carr,
Mhm.
Mr. Terry has a question.
Sure.
So I'm looking at this, the ADM trends, and it's my understanding that we used to have 24,000 in the system. So how is this trend or this decline in our ADM impacting our average class sizes? Because we've got to have a lower number of students per teacher, than we had years ago.
So I do have the information. If you look at the historical budget data, I show what our ADM has been from 97, 98 forward. And at the height in the 1999-2000 school year, PSRC had 24,000 students. I don't know if anybody presently has average class size from this year to that year, but the trends have been smaller over the last 5 years. So the average class size has not changed much then. But I would imagine if we compared it to that year when there was 24, you would see a change. And Mr. Jamal can speak on that.
And so to your point, Dr. Terry, and Ms. Erica's also going to speak to this component. To your question about the ADM decrease as relates to teachers. So as the ADM decrease, our funding allotment also decreases as well. And so at the beginning of each year, the projected enrollment comes out, and we have to make adjustments and begin to see, based off of this allocation, can we continue with those positions? And usually the state reduces our teacher allotment due to our ADM. Also, Dr. Terry and the school board members, we got to remember K-3 is under a state mandated class size requirement. So kindergarten, you can have a cap of 18 with a max of 3 additional students. First grade, you have a cap of 16 with the additional 3 students you can have. And second and third grade, you have a cap of 17 with an additional 3 at the most students. So you have to abide by at least state mandated K-3 have our class size cap. So, when you're looking at any reductions or you're looking at class size reductions, whatever, those are areas you cannot touch and you try to avoid touching as much as possible. And so, but yes, to your point, when there is an ADM reduction, the state does do a decrease in teacher allotment, which are O1 positions. Those are not things that we do as a district. Those are coming from the state. So they're saying, if your ADM has dropped, we are reducing your allocation by such amount of teachers. We're not funding that. So that's very important for us to understand. That's a state thing. That's not a district thing.
I want to add to that. So historically, in the past, you had private schools and church schools. That was it. But now, obviously, you have charter schools, opportunity scholarships, all of that add to. So the decline does not necessarily mean it's choice, which I support 100% because we need to be the best option. What we study all year is our decline, and it's happening across this state. We serve 86.34% of the eligible students in this county in our public schools. That is one of the highest rates in the state. And so while we see that decline, we know why, but we're still serving majority of our students.
And the other information, when we get the reduction in the ADM, it's not always isolated in certain
Excuse
grades.
me,
I'm
what-
sorry, I apologize.
Dr. Manuel? Wait, can you
Hold on
turn
one
on
second.
your microphone? I got, Trey, did you have a question first? Okay, I'm sorry, y'all. Dr. Manuel?
To Mr. Terry's point, high school would be sort of different. You may have some classes with 9 in it. You may have some classes with 10. Students select what they take, and then the core courses like English, they're usually full because they gotta take it. So high school's a different animal when you come to sizes. Thank you.
Mr. Jamal, this question may is for you, but mainly so you may need to step back up there and answer it. Right now in the public schools of Robeson County, how many vacancies do we have as far as teachers?
As of today, we have 56 vacancies.
56 vacancies. Now, this 19 number that we have right here, is that coming from the state based off our ADM?
Correct.
So that is coming from the state. How many academic coaches do we have in this county?
29.
29. Thank you, Ms. Fields.
Mr. Craig?
Thank you. Just a general comment, and Ms. Erica, you might can help me with this. I know we talk about the enrollment going down, and a month or so ago, I'd asked for a number of our students that were in charter, private, wherever they were. And the number was like 1,500.
If you look on the
Yeah.
historical budget data sheet
It's
that I
on there?
provided
Okay.
and look on page 1,
Mm-hmm.
that shows the budget breakdown over the last few years. Towards the
Mhm.
bottom, it shows the breakdown of PSRC, charter, private, and homeschools, and it shows the percentage for 25, 26.
Okay. And then I hadn't looked through that. I had got that
And
sheet
it's
earlier.
1586 is what the number of charter for this current school year. And so, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, that's
you
not
had a-
bad. My only comment was like it was 1,500 or so that's gone to those schools. And then it shows how many, what our population is. So yes, we've lost students to those schools, but there's just students, people are not here as much. I mean, that's my opinion. I might be wrong.
So our birth rate
Birth rate, whatever.
statistically
is
is
down.
is down.
So it's not like we've lost 3,000 or 4,000 students. We have, but we lost 1,500 of them to these various schools. And then you got the people's just not here. So that's a different way of loss, just in my opinion. And I know you had sent that, and I hadn't looked at it on here yet, but I just wanted to point that out.
And also, when the charter students are not just restricted to the charter schools that are in Robeson County. We send county appropriations to 15 different schools, and only 3 of them are located in Robeson County. We also have virtual charters that have some of our students. And again, as Dr. Williamson mentioned, there used to be a cap on charters, and since that cap has been pretty much eliminated, that as additional charters have been implemented. And we all have our strengths and weaknesses. Keeping up with my documents to the slideshow was not one of mine, so I apologize ahead of time, but we're going to try.
Mr. Trey has a question.
Question piggybacking on Mr. Craig's comment, because he brought up some, is the number available to us of how many leave to go to charter schools that actually come back in to the public schools of Robeson County? Is there,
I don't know.
was just curious.
I think Dr. Locklear has
Dr. Locklear?
Yeah, if you don't mind, I just want to point out that I also think it's interesting that we have 386 students in private schools and over 1,000 that's doing homeschooling. So between homeschooling and private schools, that's almost as much as the charter.
And I did want to point out that I got that information from My Future NC. And the private may actually represent homes and not students. So there might be more students associated there, but the only data that I could find was homes. Okay. So I believe we were still going through the budget summary and what has or has not happened with the budget in this school year in 25-26. I'm not sure if I talked about the retirement matching change from 24.04 to 24.67%, and hospitalization increased from 8,095 to 8,500. So what that means is we have a dollar budget. We have to find those funds, and that's the matching we pay per person for their retirement and for their hospital insurance. So as that increases, we have to allot those funds to cover those differences.
And Miss Erica,
Yes.
is it true that the state is going to switch from Aetna back to Blue Cross Blue Shield? Has that decision been made yet?
The only decision that I'm aware of that has been made is the state is not going to continue with Aetna's contract as is. They want to rebid it. We have not been told that they have secured a new vendor yet, that they are going to rebid. They're not going to keep Aetna during the duration of the existing contract.
And is this the lower cost? Hopefully.
Hopefully. But, we're all waiting to see. I think either way, if they get a new provider, it couldn't be implemented. And Mr. Schwartz, let me know if I'm wrong. I don't think it could be implemented until January of 2028, regardless of what happens. Is that date correct?
I believe that's correct, but I wouldn't bet the farm on it.
Right. But we're just hearing about a lot of changes. Nothing that I'm saying has happened yet, but the state health board meets and they have discussed changing the way they pay out for doctors. They've talked about doing a preferred and non-preferred plan where the plan would pay out based on the doctor that you go to. Of course, right now they have the Lantern system in place where if you're having non-emergency surgeries, it will be covered, but you can't control which doctor. You have to call in and see if your doctor, so that would be like maybe you have to have knee surgery, shoulder surgery, there's a list, but all employees should have received information from Lantern. I haven't heard from anybody who's used that yet to see if that is helpful, but there's been a lot of interest in that. But right now, only thing we've been hearing is, of course, nobody wants to pay more for the same type of insurance, the salary bands and so forth. That's the biggest complaint, and delays in payment is what we have heard with the switch to Aetna. And again, you guys tell me what else, like where do you want me to go with the 25? I know you're just seeing it, so I know you may or may not have a lot of questions there. I did want to point out a couple of things. If you will go to,
I do have one
Yes.
question, Ms.
Okay.
Erica.
yes, ma'am.
So for the state planning allotments for 2026, 2027,
Yes, ma'am.
It appears the classroom teacher dollar amount is decreasing by over $1 million.
I'm going to get to that one, after.
Am I
we-
ahead of you?
Yes, ma'am, but we can jump there if you want. That's what I say. That's not my strength to stand on the task here.
No, tell me where you are and we'll get to
I'm
this
going
later.
through still the 25-26 budget,
Okay.
the current budget year we're in. And I just wanted to point out, because we have talked about it before where public schools would request for the county to take our sales tax, money that would be coming to us anyway. We're not talking about new funds that the county would be giving us, and transferring that into our current expense. So if you'll look at page 4 in the 25-26 school year budget document, I do show that, and we are going to request to submit a letter to the county to ask for a transfer of $3 million from our capital outlay sales tax into our current expense. And I did want to point that out.
And again, Erica, let's be clear, that is not new money.
That is
That's
not a
money-
request for new money. That is money that would be coming to us anyway because of Article 42 and 43, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Schwartz. That's just moving buckets. We have to ask the county to do the transfer if we want to move it from capital outlay to current expense, but it is not additional funding. And that is because, as indicated in our independent audit, and as indicated as we've discussed, we are at a position where we don't have a lot of fund balance or options. If you will look at the historical budget data on page 4, I show our fund balance for local over the last 7 years. And page 4 on the PSRC historical budget data, page 4. And so if we go back to 1819, we're talking about pre-COVID. The public schools of Robeson County was in a similar position. We were in a $2 million deficit then. You can see our fund balance was only $2,093,000 in the 18-19 school year. I showed the last 7 years to show, of course, everybody knows we went through the pandemic. During that time, PSRC received over $173 million that was used in a variety of ways, one of which meant we didn't have to use local funding for some positions and some overages like transportation. COVID year was the only year in my 26-year history that we did not have an overage in transportation because students weren't going to school. So we didn't have to pay that money. So we had $4 million in that year that could be used to cover all the other state overages that I always talk about. So I just wanted to show over the 7 years that we increased our local fund balance by $7.6 million. Yes, we did spend 5.9 of that, but we used all of our COVID money as we should. And in the years, I show what we used in detail that fund balance on. In the 22-23 school year, that was the year that the state of North Carolina mandated we move all minimum wage from $13 an hour to $15 an hour. But that was not funded based on our individual employees. The state funds that on an average. So we had gaps there in moving all of our employees to that $15 an hour that still exists today. And I just thought that information would be helpful as we move forward in this process of having conversations with the county and to show that we were good stewards of all those funds and used all of those federal dollars first and state dollars before using capital. And I know sometimes it seems when we don't have that conversation year to year, it gets lost and sounds like, oh, we're asking for so much money right now, but we really haven't. Over the last 30 years, our county appropriation has increased $3.5 million since 1997. So I just wanted to put that in perspective and show again the details on how those funds were used and explain we're still having these same overages as to why we're asking for that transfer. And as we move to the 26-27 planning, you'll also see there's an additional county request.
Mr. Craig has a question, Ms. Erica.
Ms. Erica, you might have just answered it. So we're asking for the 3 million, which is just a transfer.
It's just a transfer. It's
Right.
not new money.
That's-
It's already money that will be coming to
Okay.
us.
Now, how
through
much new
sales tax.
money are we asking for?
I have
You
a,
ain't got there
I
yet.
ain't got there
Okay,
yet.
don't worry
It's
about it.
included in my presentation.
I got something I want to ask at the very end. So go ahead.
We can skip there. if-
No,
okay.
I'm fine. Go right ahead. Go
Okay.
right ahead.
Erica, I want to come back to, so over this period of time, we increased fund balance by 7.6.
Correct.
At the same time, we invested 10 million plus in capital projects
Yes.
to upgrade our schools and that. And so that's important now, that we're able to do those capital projects at the same time, increase our fund balance.
Yes, that is correct. And this particular document only details our local. It does not include our capital outlay. Any questions I can answer about 25, 26?
I do have a question.
Yes.
The SROs, so did the county agree to help us offset this cost? And if they did, what are we still waiting for funding?
My understanding is the county stated that they would add new positions so we could have a person at every school. They did not indicate that they would help us with the existing SROs that we are currently paying for. The conversations we had, including adding, so we wouldn't be without an SRO at each site.
So once that conversation was out there, we made it clear that that's fine. That's additional funding for you and from you that cannot and should not be part of our current expense or our capital funding.
Correct.
And when we made that clear, the conversation went away. Bobby, talk about.
While Mr. Bobby's coming up, I also want to make sure everybody understands that when we talk about the SROs and what we reimburse the county, it's everything. So it's not just their salary, it's all of their benefits, whatever they pay, it's their longevity, it's workers' comp insurance, it's every expense that they incur for that resource officer. So if the county happens to give a raise, we have to reimburse that raise. So that's an increased cost for us in every year that the county and or municipalities, because correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Bobby, we use County of Robeson, City of Lumberton, Town of St. Paul's, and that's all. But anytime any of those municipalities give their officers a raise, we have to increase the amount that we pay out for those officers.
Good afternoon, Chairman Fields, board members. So that is correct. Last summer, there was a conversation among the board members as county commissioners as they were doing their planning for their budget to set aside funding for an additional 11 officers at that time. Once we started doing some calculations, that price tag would have exceeded $1 million. We did send them a letter of request or support for those additional officers. And as Dr. Williamson and Erica indicated, that would not be additional funding to us. It would just be a set aside. And since we have sent that letter to them, it has not moved forward.
But we're not asking them to give us $1 million. We're asking them just to fund the positions. Is that correct?
So it was their intent that they would set aside an additional dollar amount, and it would be in excess of $1 million to cover those 11 additional officers.
Hold on, Mr. Craig. Will you turn it to your microphone again? Okay, Mr. Craig.
Everything what was said is exactly right. There's a conversation Dr. Manuel and I had, and then we had it with a commissioner. And then I was told later on when the price come in there, the commissioner just said, no, that's where it come from. It was just, we're not going to do that. And I can say it any way you want to, but they just wouldn't fund the positions because they were strictly going to be the ones funding, and they turn it down.
Bobby, if I may, for lack of a better term, our resource officers are 11 months,
Correct.
correct? So part of our in-kind match, so to speak, is that we employ them for 11 months. A month of that, they serve the county totally, right?
Correct.
During the summer.
Dr. Manuel, did you turn it off?
Piggybacking on Mr. Craig's conversation, I was told after the fact by a commissioner that they gave us an extra $1 million, and Erica can respond to that, and we could use that extra $1 million to pay for those resource officers.
So on page 3 of the historical budget data, you will see that, yes, in the 24-25 school year, we got an additional $1.3 million. And yes, that money can be used to pay resource officers. But there's a lot of other state overages that we have to pay, and I have that included in my spreadsheet. So, but yes, all of that is correct, but that doesn't say stagnant every year. So that 1.3, getting that one time with all the other overages we have is not enough to cover it year after year. And I use 3 different funding sources to pay SROs. I use DSSF, 069, and local.
Oh, follow up, Madam Chair, follow up.
I'm sorry, Dr. Emanuel.
Comment, I was just repeating a message given directly to me from the commissioner.
Yes,
Thank
ma'am. Thank you.
Let's clarify that because I heard the same comment. So our per pupil expenditure is what?
So as of 25-26, our per pupil expenditure, looking at our decreased ADM for this year of $20,389, that's where we are for 25-26, is $719.05. And that is on page 3
Right.
of the historical budget data that I gave everyone.
So our conversation last year was over a 3-year period of time, we need about a $6 million increase. Our hope was that we would have gotten half of that last year. Part of that million plus increase was that. We made the
Correct.
request for current expense
Correct.
so that we could bump our per pupil, which we're at last place in the state. So to say that you gave us $1 million, we could use it however, is not exactly the facts now on that. We requested it in current expense where we needed.
And so they just gave us that $1 million bump in 24-25 school year, but we really needed $1 million the next year or to be ongoing.
Well, what we did in that year, we actually requested $3 million in that year. So that's the conversation we've been having. We were told we would get updates as the reevaluation occurred. That of the $3 million of our request from that previous year, we received 1.3 of it.
That was for 24, 25.
Correct.
And the previous 2 years, we got no increase.
That's correct. And I also included on that page 3, I'm not sure if this is where we should, on the historical.
I'm sorry,
budget
Miss
data. I'm
Erica.
sorry.
Mr. Bradley has a question.
Okay.
So not really a question, just a statement. Miss Erica, will you just for the folks listening from home, year 15 to 16, and then this year, will you say those per pupil numbers, what we're getting from the county?
In 2015-16, we received $532.49 in per pupil expenditures, where our ADM was $23,240. And in 25-26, where our ADM is $20,389, we're receiving $719.05.
That right there falls 100% blame on our county commissioners, and that's embarrassing for anybody that's listening. That's a shame, and that's nowhere close to putting us anywhere where we need to be. Just for the record, I just wanted to clear the air.
I just want to check the numbers I've got here. In the last 20 years, there have only been 4 years where there has been any increase in county appropriation for current expense. Is that correct?
In the last 20, that's correct.
Since
Yes,
2006, 7?
correct. That's correct.
Only 4 out of the last 20.
Correct.
And in the other 16, it was zero increase.
That's correct.
If I may, Erica, at the bottom of page 3, let's talk about that. Address the conversation about we need to close schools. There's a mindset that when you close a school, you gain additional funds. That is not the case because the other considerations, you keep that principal position for 1 year.
You actually can keep it for up to 2 years, but we're well past the 2 years.
Right.
And that principal position cannot be used to cover anything in your local or capital. You'd have to use those funds somehow in an ABC transfer that would be allowable into another state fund. So that's the conversation we always want to have. Yes, our budget, for when people see how much state and federal money we receive, it does appear like it's a lot. But it is so restricted, it is so categorical, and there are so many rules. There's no flexibility in those funds to use it for what we actually need. I did list there on page 3 all of the closures and or changes that have occurred. I just went from 1819, and I think I may have missed Carroll Middle School, so I apologize. I think we did some grade configuration changes at Carroll. But in 1819, obviously because of Hurricane Matthew in 2016, we closed West Lumberton, and that is the year that Southside Ashpole was transferred to ISD, the Innovative School District. In 1920, we closed Green Grove and transferred those students to Fairgrove, and it was restructured to an elementary from a middle school. In 1920, we closed the school we're standing in, Janie C. Hargrave, and transferred central office here. In August of 2020 really May, finance came, and then in August 2020 during the pandemic, central office moved in, and those students transferred to Knuckles Elementary. In 1920, R.B. Dean was also closed. Those students were transferred to Townsend, and Townsend was changed into a pre-K 8 school. 1920, Rolla Middle was closed. Those students went to South Robeson, was intermediate, now middle school, and we transitioned the LAP-RAS program there. 1920, we closed South Robeson High School and transitioned it to a middle school. In 21-22, Southside Ashpole transferred back to the public schools of Robeson County a year earlier than was anticipated through the ISD contract.
And I want to make a comment. So last year, Southside Asheville now net growth and missed its seating growth by one student in that short period of time. So they've done an outstanding job. Ms. Jones is a principal, is a strong instructional leader. But I did want to note that they missed its seating. And that one school, if that one student had been seated, we would have been off the state list. You got to be 50%. That would have given us 50% of our schools that is seated growth.
And also in 21-22, we began the lease options with RCC for the use of Green Grove. And, utility savings is one of the things that's mentioned when you talk about closing a school. And as part of this transfer option, we had to gather what our utility costs have been since we started this process. So back from July of 2022 through December of 2025, our utility costs at Fairgrove were $107,000 over almost a 3.5-year period. So that is a savings, absolutely, but not a considerable amount over that timeline. In 22-23, we then transferred the 6-8 grades from Townsend to South Robeson Middle School. So now Townsend has reverted back to a pre-K 5 school. And then in that same year, we transferred the 5th grade from St. Paul's Elementary to St. Paul's Middle School. And again, I think I missed Carroll Middle. I'm not exactly sure when that occurred, but the 6th grade, and there was a grade configuration change there. They went to Lumberton Junior High. That may have been prior to that date. But we just wanted to show that, We had the conversations about closure and move forward, but there are other things to consider, like current space available at individual schools. One of the things we've heard over the years when we talk about making any changes to our transportation model is we don't want students to be on a bus for an extended period of time. If you close a school with how large our county is, you increase the time that a child may have to spend on a bus. So there's a lot of things to consider. Overall, the student counts would stay the same, so the teacher amounts would stay the same. Again, you would have access to the principal salary for a 2-year period, but it could only be used as an ABC transfer in another state area. You cannot move that principal salary to local or capital for use. And after that 2 years, DPI removes that position allotment from you, so you no longer have access to use it for any reason. Okay. Any other questions about 25, 26? I can answer. If not,
Erica, I do want to make
Okay.
one more point.
Okay.
At this point in time in this fiscal year, if we get a state budget, it would put most school systems in a bind.
That's correct.
Okay, explain that.
So we would not want to say that we don't want anybody to get an increase. If the state passes a budget now that they're going to implement in 25, 26, we obviously would implement it. But there are a couple of things. The Orbit system, the online reporting for retirement, has a 90-day cap. So if we have to retro back to July, obviously that's outside of the 90 days. So that creates some issues in making sure individuals' retirement accounts are correct. We'd have to update all our pay tables that we have in place, implement that before we would do supplements, because supplements are based on that. It would be a tremendous amount of work and impact all of our dollar allotments at this stage. Now, the hope is if there was a budget passed that had increases, we would get increases in our allocations. But as I've indicated before, those don't come in as a list of our employees and what their increase will be. It comes in as an average. And then for our federal dollars and our local dollars, we don't get any increase if the state adopts a budget at this point. We have to make that work within the revenue sources we already have.
So at this point in our fiscal year, most local dollars are spent
Yes, sir.
as should be. You invest that money as we're ongoing. The other part, and our concern is this, at this point, we probably received, 90% of the state allocation?
Yes.
We hope we can get to 100%. We might not. So that's an additional loss of funds if we can't get to 100%, correct?
Yes, sir. Okay, if
I'm sorry, Mr. Craig has a question.
Let me decide. Ms. Erica, now, what part are you going to now? You going to the next year?
yes, sir.
Okay. This might be as good a time as any. If I did something wrong, then I'm not gonna say I'm gonna apologize, because I don't think I did anything wrong. But I do want to ask all of you to listen, and I know you do. I spoke to 4 commissioners. I've got 4 more I'm gonna speak to. And all those 4 have said, the school system, we need to give you more money. And I said, I agree. And in my conversations with them, we're not having meetings with them. Now, I'm not talking about the whole school board, but Miss Erica, Dr. Williamson, Miss Kelly, their chairman, Mr. Edge, we're not talking. Miss Erica, you tell me if I'm right or wrong. You send over a budget, and there might be communication with you and Miss Kelly, but that's basically it. And as far as I can understand, they're not getting somebody to sit down and explain these numbers to them. Now, my conversation, and I will tell you, it was today with Mr. Edge. And I said, well, I'll figure out when to say this. He said he would be all in favor of certain people getting together and meeting on these budgets. And I think they need to meet before a budget is done and not just pass paper back and say, yes, give us $3 million or we need $3 million. They need to understand why they're giving us the $3 million. And to me, it's hard to do that when you're just passing paper back. And I know you could fix it where they would understand when you're asking for something. And I know we've talked about SROs, subs, buses, and ECs. They see that's where we can use local money.
Correct.
Well, that needs to be, to me, explained to them, and you can't explain that passing a piece of paper.
That's correct.
So now I am going to ask Chairman Trey, Dr. Williamson, Ms. Fields, whoever is on, since you're finance chairman, to, Mr. Edge said, reach out to him or reach out to Kelly and give them 2 dates, and let's set up a meeting to where you can have a conversation. Now, you might already plan to do that. I might have overstepped a little bit doing it, but I've just got tired of being on this board for 10 years and seeing the money that we get from the commissioners, Mr. Bradley. Like you said, it's ridiculous. And, you know, it's been on and been nice about it, but there just needs to be a sit-down meeting and we talk about it. The SROs, we ain't had nobody shot on campus, thank the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't care what school you're at, we have. Well, I know the answer there. I'm talking about like during the day, that kind of situation to where we don't have an officer at a school and the police station's right down the road. They can't get there in time. I mean, I could go on and on about these things, but again, my point is, I hope we leave here tonight that it's unanimous, and Dr. Williamson, y'all will come up with a group of people and let's try to meet.
Craig, let me respond to that. So Chairman Britt and I, we've had that conversation that once we go through this budget process, that we would sit down, and we've had those joint meetings before. We've had that conversation. The other part of it, and I'm not throwing stones at anything or anybody. How many times did I walk to your office, Erica, and say, try to set a date so that we can sit down and have a conversation?
Multiple times.
Okay.
And Dr. Williamson, I can add, I've asked Miss Erica, have you met? No.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's not just you, it's just, and folks, you got to meet on certain things, and to me,
Yeah,
this is
the
just one
dialogue
of
is
them.
always welcome. I mean,
Yeah.
the dialogue of why anyone feels like we can't have a conversation about additional funds or we shouldn't is important to know the same reasons why we should. I mean, we just need some dialogue back and forth to say whatever that needs to be, because we have not been a district that has asked for a lot, but we have set the funding priorities, and I don't think it's wrong to say we need more funds.
Well,
I mean, I know cuts have to happen and things have to run efficiently, and when we always look at that, we've never been a district that is way overstaffed anywhere. Our local funds wouldn't allow for that. It's like I say, the state gives us funding in a lot of our dollar allotments based on averages, and we've always had to make that work, and we have. This will be the first time in all my 26 years that we've ever made a request to the county to transfer current expense, but we're there. We're gonna have to make that request. And again, that's not new money, that's transferring a funding that would already come to us.
Mr. Craig, do you have any?
Yeah, just real quick, and my conversations was in general about the need of money, and then we did talk about the meeting thing, if we could do that. And again, and I did bring up the fact of the lack of money that has been given to us over the years, that something needs to be done. And you look on TV, and I can't remember the counties, but you look, and I'm gonna throw figures out. They request $10 million and they get 7 million. And I mean, you see that on TV all the time. Now, I just threw that one out. I could, whatever it is, but they get something that is significant. Now, we know across the state this year, there's all these shortages. That's what you're hearing, but you still see these requests and they get X. So,
But you also
We just
see the
need some
new
help.
initiatives. I mean,
Yeah.
we're at a point where we're just asking to sustain. A lot of districts are requesting funding to implement new salary structures, new supplements for their staff. I mean, we don't have any money at this point. We would love to consider those things as well, but we're just talking about maintaining.
we'd love to, everybody on this board would love to increase every supplement that teachers get.
Absolutely,
Every
all
supplement
staff.
coaches get.
Everybody.
Everybody would love,
But
but if you don't have the money,
You
you
have
can't
to
do it.
have the local to
That's
be
right.
able to address those.
That's enough. Thank you.
Mr. Trey?
And just to piggyback on what Mr. Craig said, Mr. Craig, I don't think I've directly told you, but in the past 3 weeks, Dr. Williamson knows that I would say in the past 3 weeks, I have met with 4 myself as well. And through me and Dr. Williamson's conversation, we wanted to have this meeting here first before we moved into a possible joint meeting, because that's one of the things I want to see done. We need to have a joint meeting together for the betterment of public schools of Robeson County. Well,
Okay. So if there are no other questions, we would ask for the 25-26 to be presented as an action item on the board agenda for Tuesday night, if there are no objections to that. Or I guess we'll get to that at the end, Ms. Fields, I'm sorry. Okay. So moving forward to, if you'll pull the PSRC 26-27 planning budget document. And again, the first part is a budget summary that we've already gone over. I know it's repetitive, but that's how I always start the planning for the next year, is reviewing that. So just skip that first page. And if you go to page 2, you'll see what our state planning allotments are for the 26-27 school year. Thank you, Cole. This isn't on the screen is not an entire list, but the grand total at the bottom is what we are expecting to receive. The list you have is a complete list. But overall, including position dollar allotments and months of employment, based on our ADM decreasing to $19,949, you'll see what that dollar amount is, $2.5 million in state starting next year.
And again, that's because our ADM has decreased.
That's correct. Yes, ma'am. And that
Yes.
planning allotment shows,
Attorney Swartz has a question.
yes,
Erica, how accurate have the planning allotment projections been for ADM for the past several years?
they have been very accurate, especially the last 2 years when they started. They moved from doing a projected future to using more of what your year end is. We have not received any reduction or addition in the last 2 years.
Thanks.
Yes, sir. So what Mr. Schwartz was asking, the state used to forward fund us, and they would say, well, what are your projections based on your best 1 of 2 months as you move into the next school year? And a lot of times districts would receive money, but when they short up what their student counts were in those months, they'd have to take the money back. So now the state has changed that funding formula, and they look at what our ADM is towards the end of the school year and use that to fund us. So by reverse, those districts that have an increase in ADM, they would get additional funds. But I want to say I saw in some information that only 100 of the 115 LEAs either had a stagnant or reduced ADM moving forward to 2027. So 100 out of 115 experienced some type of loss in students.
And Ms. Erica, can
Yes.
you explain to us how ADM is derived?
How it's derived,
What
I
nu-
don't know. There's a
what-
lot of ways you can look at student count. How about we go there? There's all kind of acronyms, and Mr. Bobby might actually be better. There's ADM, there's average monthly membership, there's average daily membership, there's average daily attendance, there's beginning of the year, end of the year. I just read an article that was about 5 pages on how you can look at what student counts are at any given point. There's PMR every month that looks at all of these things. So the average daily membership is the number of students that are enrolled based on the number of students that attend. Is that correct? No. Okay, we'll let Mr. Bobby do that.
All right, so there are really two numbers that we look at when we look in terms of students in our district. ADM is the number of days that a student is on the roll in a school. So if I'm in ever how many days I'm enrolled in a class divided by the number of school days. So that's how you get your average daily membership. Average daily attendance would be how many kids are in attendance versus how many kids are enrolled. So those are really two different, when we start talking about how do we measure the number of kids in a building, average daily membership, number of days a kid's name is on a roll versus the number of school days. Average daily attendance, how many days I'm present versus how many are enrolled?
The number that I always use is
Dr.
the.
Terry
Oh,
has
I'm
a
sorry.
question, Miss Erica.
Okay.
I always thought that ADM was set, I guess, for the year based on the ADM in the first 20 days.
So I was just gonna say, the number that I use for ADM is a number that DPI projects that's gonna be our best one of two. So that is a documented number in the system allotment revision area that DPI sets. That's what I use because that's what they use for our funding. But that number will fluctuate all during the year. Every monthly principal monthly report will show a different ADM, but as you've indicated, that ADM has to be stable for them to give us money. They're not going to change our funding every month based on what those changes are. So DPI looks at our end of year and then shores that up based on the best one of two in the next school year.
Also, Dr. Locklear, so the first 20 days are important because historically in the past, that was determined if we had to send some positions back.
That's correct.
The downside of that was, once you get past those 20 days, you can enroll 500 additional kids. You don't gain ADM until the next year.
That's correct. And there is no more showing up. If that was to happen after those best one of two, we are not going to get any additional funds until the next school year. The only thing that changes in the middle of a school year with our, any changes to our allotment is for exceptional children. If there are exceptional children transfers, they pick one time of the year. It used to be December. I think it's going to be April now, April 1. They will transfer those funds if we have lost exceptional children, but that is the only allotment that could change in the middle of a school year. And again, that's an area where if we lose a child in the middle of the year, we would have to pick up that additional funds from somewhere. Because losing those children doesn't mean it's enough to lose a teaching position.
And you'll talk about that in a minute. One of the areas that everybody is struggling with is EC.
Yes.
Is EC. Numbers are just increasing across this state, have to provide services. And so EC is going to be one of those areas where the allotment does not match the growth.
And so EC, state EC is capped at 13%. We used to have as many as 17% of our students fall in the EC category, but now we're less than 14, if I'm not mistaken. We're less than 13. But that doesn't mean because we get 13% funding that 13% is enough to cover all the needs of our students. Individual needs vary between EC, and some services that need to be provided are much more expensive than others, as you can see by the EC contracts that you have to approve every year and ongoing.
So I want to explain that a little bit more. I think it's important because parents get upset sometimes when we don't automatically enroll kids in the EC program, the testing part, all of that. But go back to what Erica just said. The cap, we used to be almost at 18%. We got funded on 13%. So you know what that meant. That additional students we had to pay for out of local. And so they've done a great job in terms of reducing that number so that we're not having to find money to pay for those services now. So pretty much in line with what the state, that may change as they look at changing the funding formula for EC. We all recognize some EC designations cost more to serve than others. And what we're seeing an increase in, Dr. Carr, is at the high end of services, the high end of what it costs to meet the needs of those kids. So there's a lot that always, and so it's not as simple as us just saying, yes, we can do that. And then the other part, even when we put a kid on a 504, which means that the testing, they didn't qualify, but when we do that, you give that student the same right as if they did. And we're going to meet the need of every child, but this is a business conversation, right, that we're having in terms of how do we keep this district out of the red, and why sometimes we have to say no, regardless of what our heart is telling us. We better look at the business side of it. But they've done a great job of getting that under control.
And we also apply for most every grant that is out there for EC. So of course, we also receive federal 060 IDEA funds. We also receive funding specifically for Shining Stars Preschool. Developmental Day is one. We also have, and I'm sorry, I use PRCs a lot. PRC 118 and 119 are grants. We just recently received an additional 350,000 plus in 118 to help support some training in EC in 3 different categories. And there was a collective Sand Hills application that we also were included in and were awarded. So moving forward, again, though, with those federal dollars and that EC, those contracted services, whatever changes occur, we're not going to get additional funds. And as I said earlier in the presentation, we don't know today what our planning allotment is. That does include 060 and 118 and 119. We don't have those planning allocations yet.
Miss Erica, this
Yes.
question is for Dr. Williamson. I'm just going to ask because I know there are people sitting out there wondering. So the cap is at 13%. Is it feasible? Is it really financially feasible to ask the county to help offset the EC cost? Why or why not?
The better ask is what we're asking for. Give us an increase in current expense because we have the flexibility to move that money wherever we need. I don't think that we should ask for a specific program, but just increase our current expense to $1,000 per child, and it covers all the kids and all the needs. Good, good question. Thank you.
With regard, if I may, on the other, the EC children are the children of this county, just like all the other kids are. And the funding is capped from the state and federal sources, and the remaining source of funding to take care of those children of this county is a county obligation.
Agree.
And one of the things, and it's probably not the only thing, but one of the things that we notice about being in Robeson County as opposed to maybe say Wake or Charlotte Meck, there are competing agencies in those EC service areas. So you're going to have a lot of different OT, PT, speech providers that can compete and maybe offer more competitive pricing than what we experience here. So we're not really in a position. We've tried to hire those people, but obviously they make more money as a private vendor. And but we don't have that same expansion here where the pricing can be different. So we have to use the availability of those providers that are with us.
Okay, if I may, and so we said EC services, we can't control that, the numbers, we have to provide the services. But the twin to that is contracted services.
Yes.
That links itself to EC. We never know, we can only project what that might be. So the 2 areas that most of the time we find ourselves over is EC, out of our control, contracted services, out of our control, and a mandate to provide those services.
And I have some slides that touch on that as we move forward with the, so again, overall, you have the planning allotments in front of you, and you'll see for the most part, we see a reduction everywhere, with the exception of EC, which could change. Anything that we're dealing with now is based on whatever it was in the current budget that was approved. The legislatures are going to work on hopefully presenting a budget for 26, 27. Whatever changes they make will be reflected in these allotments. And you will also see that our 071 supplement will be funded for next year based on this current allocation, and it has increased. I presented that last month and showed that the maximum a teacher could receive, I think, was a little over $3,500. Well, next school year for 26, 27, that maximum amount goes to over $4,000. So that's why you see that increase there. And that is a funding formula that the state gives us. I'm not really sure what goes into that and why all the different counties have. I know our low wealth and all of that has to factor into it somehow, but I'm not really sure what that funding formula is, but it does change annually. And this just reiterates what we've already said, our enrollment changes, the classroom teacher positions and total state positions that we will see a reduction in 26, 27 from the state automatically because of that. And I've probably drilled this to death too, but I'm going to talk about it again as well. This was going to be in your historical budget data. On page 2, I show the history of the retirement rate and health insurance since the 9-10 school year up until 25-26. The retirement match has increased almost 182%. In the 9-10 school year, our match for an employee for retirement was 8.75%.
Miss Erica, is this, which packet is that in?
If you go to your historical budget data, I'm sorry, it's on page 2. So the retirement match, and that is the amount that we as an employer have to pay for our employees into the retirement system. Our employees have always paid 6%. That doesn't change. But the match that we have to provide as a district has increased almost 182% since the 9-10 school year. And the governor is proposing for next year, we only have his percentage right now, moving from 24.67 to 25.76. So that's an area where we're going to have to find funding in all of our dollar allotments and what we keep referring to as to why we need additional funding to help bridge those gaps. The health insurance match, for every employee, we have to also provide matching funds that elects to use our health insurance. In 9-10, that match was $4,527. So it has increased almost 88% since then to $8,500 is what we're paying in this current year. And the governor's proposal increases it by another 5% to $8,925 a person. And those are increases we know we're going to have regardless of salaries. Those are going to be the retirement match will fluctuate based on also what the salary increases are. And I just wanted to highlight that to show that's all in what our request includes. The gaps in all of these things that are outside of our control that we have to implement. We can't offer another type of health insurance or another type of retirement rate to our employees. Those are requirements for us being state employees. We don't get to deny that in any way. That has to be something we offer. If we go back to the planning budget on page 3, you'll see the 26-27 potential cuts. Some of those we've already mentioned in the state allocation. Some of these are from Title I budget, state textbooks, low wealth, DSSF, all the different funding categories. We also listed the changes that have been ongoing at the central office and those positions and dollar amounts and positions that have been added here. And you'll see that net cut of $3.5, almost $3.4 million that have been ongoing and that will impact the 26-27 school year.
Dr. Terry, you have a question?
So is this what you're proposing to be cut for 26-27?
This is what we're proposing that will be cut, yes, and part of what has been ongoing prior to 27. Yes, sir.
Let's walk through the central office, because that's part of the conversation is what is the central office giving up? And again, that's been an ongoing process for us that we, from day one, began to reduce position. Walk us through that.
Okay. So we previously had a K2 supervisor and K5 supervisor. Now is one position to K5 supervisor. The staff development coordinator retired and that position was not replaced. The technology lead teacher left the system and that position was not replaced. We had an executive director of school transformation position that was not replaced. We had a certification in HR online facilitator, which was a full-time person and half-time person that was not replaced. A HR secretary and administrative specialist who was part-time for 1.5 positions. Our prime-time program used to carry a director and a bookkeeper and secretary for a total of 3 positions. That's now a half-time position. We previously had an AIG coordinator that retired. That position has not been filled. A maintenance secretary, those duties were split with another employee. That position was not filled. A CIA bookkeeper position was not filled. An autism specialist position not filled, and a social worker for EC Willie M was not filled.
Over what period of time was that?
That's probably been over a 3-year period
Over a
of time.
3-year period.
And can you clarify local CIS?
So currently, there are 3 employees that are part-time through the local community and schools program that are funded through low wealth. There is an additional $99,000 that is given to local CIS to cover positions, and $9,000 for 3 other schools. So
Okay.
that's what's encompassed there.
Dr. Manuel, were you first or Trey? I wasn't paying attention. Dr. Manuel.
Trey was first.
No, ma'am, ladies.
Oh, it is sweet. I have several questions. First of all, I want to go back down to the previous central office position cuts. Ms. Erica, which of these were funded by ESSER funds? And when the ESSER funds went away, they would have naturally gone away.
None of them. I have the funding source in the middle. None of them were funded through
Okay.
ESSER.
Also, which were federally funded, like AIG, it paid for its own, right?
State paid for AIG. The only there's 2 federal funded positions there. The staff development coordinator was funded out of Title II, PRC 103, and the autism specialist was funded out of PRC 60 IDEA funds.
Okay, go back up to
And
the,
I'm sorry, also the executive director for school transformation was out of federal 050 Title I.
help me understand at the top, you referred to 031, 024, and you said textbook. Where's the textbook in the first part where you're going to do cuts?
The online L platform,
Mm-hmm.
we use state textbooks allotment there. That's $400,000.
All right, now, look, this is where I'm confused. What is the online EL platform? Is that what we use with the reading program?
It's on.
It's up, sorry. So it usually, there's 2 pieces that we pay for that come up together. So the textbook is one fee itself, the materials, and then the online platform has a separate fee. So we're suggesting we're going to cut the L platform to help reduce costs.
What does that mean? Does that mean you can't go on, like in the classroom, they can't go on and do the little things they do? I mean, whatever they're supposed to do?
They can still teach with the textbooks they have in the books, and they'll still have PowerPoints, but they will not have like the online assessments and those types of things.
So it would just be the assessments that will leave.
Mostly assessments and the online lessons. Some teachers use the online platform for their lessons and stuff. So they still have all the lessons in a hard copy, but some of them preferred the other piece because it tracked everything online from the grading, the assessments, those pieces.
Well, can you refresh my memory, you and Miss Erica?
Mhm.
What is the price of the whole kit and caboodle, all of the, I know you're saying 400,000 is for the online
Mhm.
portion. What is the price of the whole thing, Miss Erica?
If it was together, both pieces would be
Yeah.
$1 million.
And that's per year?
Yes, for renewal for K-8.
Which is the cheapest real. That's how we landed there.
Mhm.
What could we afford? That we could. Any other curriculum was 2 million plus.
Mhm.
I have another, Madam Chair, may I ask my other question? I have a major problem with doing away with CIS. We have been in this partnership for approximately 30 years. There are programs at schools, and I was told before that this program is redundant. Any program where you tutor children is appreciated and needed. I don't see it as redundant. Now, this is my opinion of the program. I think it's going to cause some major PR problems if we do away with the CIS initiative. I'm against it. I am one person. This is my opinion. I do not know what CAMI is. Somebody refresh my memory what CAMI is. I don't know what that is. I think the name sounds like the restaurant.
Ms. Fields, could you give?
Yeah. There's a CAMI out there. I know what that is.
No, so Cami is an online platform. It's not a curriculum or anything. It's an online platform that allows teachers to transfer PDFs into Word documents for their students or to translate documents for their students. So it's one of the resources that we have been paying for over the last several years.
May I continue, Madam Chair? What is Major Clarity?
So Major Clarity is what we used to help do the career plans that are required by the state. But now the state has a free platform that we're going to switch to called NC Careers. So that's how we're going to try to save some costs and not pay for a separate platform.
One more, Madam Chair. What is CTAP Second Show?
That is the show we put on for our kids, the theater show. We pay for 2 right now when we have funding. And this year, based on what we're looking, we're trying to cut 1 and just pay for the one that we always have paid for.
Ooh.
So would it be possible that we charge admission so that and let the parents and the community help fund it?
May I say one statement before she answers? Do you mind, Madam Chair?
No, go ahead.
Y'all, this is one of the biggest community events. I am totally against cutting a show with involving children. I mean, that's me now. I've said my piece, and I shouldn't be talking. I'm not on the committee, but when you involve children and you cut a show with children, I have a problem with that.
Okay. May I speak to that? It's $10,000. We'll leave it in. That's not a problem. I agree. That's $10,000. I do want to go back though to community in schools and explain that a little bit more. So you have the local that we're investing this money in. And when we're saying that we're going to cut the funding to that, we're not saying that they cannot be in the buildings. That's not the conversation. Welcome in the building at any point in time. We are also affiliated with the state. In fact, we just received notification that we have one of the best programs in the state that we operate at Purnell Sweat, where they do career training. And Erica, Wendy, you might want to speak to that. We do get funds for that. So again, we're not saying to the local, you can't be in the buildings. We're just saying that's an area that we think we have to cut.
So we get JNCG, and it's a national, a state CIS program, and we get actual grant funding to support that. So there's a grant the state puts out that we apply for, and that program focuses on career development and we're developing the skills of our students. And so that fund pays for that particular teacher and the support they get to help work on small groups, to work on the career and partnerships with different businesses. And so we have been seen as one of the best programs in the state at Purnell Sweat for that.
We also, it's a separate grant, but they funded in the same PRC, also gives us funding for the computer science component. So we also fund a teacher as part of, it's funded through that same PRC for computer science and CTE.
For 6th grade.
For 6th grade.
One, like final comment, wonderful. I'm glad for those grants, anything to help our children. However, my comment still stands for this local CIS. Thank you.
Mr. Trey?
All right, Ms. Erica, just so we're clear, 19 vacant teacher positions. That's
Yes.
coming from the state though, right? Because of our
Correct.
ADM. Okay.
Correct.
Technology assistants, how many does that consist of?
17.
17 technology assistants.
Yes.
Parent liaisons, how many?
6.
6 parent liaisons. Here you go, Dr. Emanuel. This is my opinion and my opinion only. The second CTAP show for $10,000, peanuts in the grand scheme of thing. I support keeping that show 120%. Me being on the local CIS board, I'll never agree to the local CIS board. My question to that is, how much do we spend a year on new vehicles?
We haven't really spent, we had said we would set aside 225,000. That was dependent on us getting some from fixed asset sales, so that hasn't really happened. So
Okay.
we don't spend anywhere near that amount on new vehicles.
My personal opinion, again, I'll never support the local CIS. That's just me. The Major Clarity and CAMI, I've checked with principals, guidance counselors, and that sort of thing, and I think we're good there, in my opinion.
And if I may.
Yeah.
Capital outlay funds couldn't be used to support those types of initiatives, but current expense could.
If I may, let me add, how do we make the decision on our technology assistance? Because when you put them in during COVID, that was for hardware. There has been a shift now to instructional technology. Talk about that, please.
Before you do that, Mr. Craig, do you want to say something, or are you good?
I think Dr. Terry may have a question as well.
Well, I think Bradley,
Okay.
do you want to say it now, or you want?
One, if I could, the PRC 131,
Textbooks.
yeah, yes, I'm sorry. Dr. Carr, okay, we're getting rid of the online, okay, but we're gonna keep the textbooks. Now, how much are just the textbooks? I know it said the whole thing was $1 million, so the textbooks are 600.
It's $599 and some change.
Okay, some change to keep the textbooks for another year, if we keep those, okay? But we're not bringing back the online part of it. And that's if we keep that curriculum, okay? And then we'll talk about curriculum when we get there. Okay, let's go, Ms. Erica, a couple of questions just with the CIS. That cut there of 224,000, okay? Are we keeping some programs with the CIS? I know we talked about Purnell Sweat, those people that work there. Are we keeping some CIS programs and stopping some other ones, or are we just stopping all of what we're doing?
In the conversations we've had and what we pay out, that would continue, that wouldn't continue any programs. That would end all the programs. The only allocation that they would receive was the required appropriations, local appropriations.
So all the extra would be eliminated?
Correct.
Okay, well, again, me just knowing.
And
the
again,
history,
that's three
there's three.
employees. It's 3 schools, and I'm sorry, the schools escape me right now where there's $9,000. Might be Lumberton Junior,
I think Red Springs Middle. might
Red
be
Springs
one.
Middle, and then 99,000 to support. That's all of those
All of those.
together is
And it
what
would-
equals that
it
dollar
would
amount.
eliminate all of those.
Yes.
Eliminate. Okay, well, just for me, just knowing the history and how that school was started and the development of that school, yeah, I would be like the other two. I would like to see that stop. I'd like to see it continue. That's all. Thank you.
Mr. Bradley, did you want to go ahead, or you can wait? You want to go ahead? And then Mr. Terry, you'll be next.
So when we say textbooks, we mean physical textbooks, correct? Okay. How much are we spending yearly on curriculum overall? The whole gamut?
Yeah, it's the 400,000 for the online platform. It's $599 and some change. And I submitted all that as a sole source last, in April. So
That's
I have
everything
to.
from K to 12 yearly, everything, right?
All of those things add up to about 1.876, if I'm not
Okay.
mistaken. With all the subject areas, that would include science.
Yeah,
Yes,
everything.
I think it's 1.86.
Okay.
Hold on a second.
Dr. Terry, do you have a question?
Dr. Clark.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, Dr. Clark. Hold on, Dr. Terry. Hold on. Go ahead,
So
Dr.
just
Clark.
for clarity, the 1.8 renews all the curriculums
Right.
that we currently have in place. Just for one subject, a new curriculum would cost us 2.5 million. So I just want to have a relationship to how that's different. So right now, the renewals are that, and then we get approximately $700,000 in textbooks a year.
And this is building on top of what the state already mandates, correct? Like something that you don't technically have to buy.
We have to have a core curriculum. So part of it is how do you meet core instruction? So you have to have an adopted core curriculum that you use to teach the standard course of study. So having materials to help support teachers implementing the standard course of study, because the standard course of study drives everything. Those standards, these are the materials that help support it. So part of what they talk about when we talk about school improvement and district improvement, one of the things they ask is that you have a core curriculum. And so they will not tell a district, this is your particular core curriculum, but they will tell you that you need to have a core curriculum.
And again, the state's allotting us 700,000. Is that what you said?
Mhm.
It's okay. Dr. Terry?
And I'm sorry, and for next year, it's reduced by 16,000. So the allocation planning a lot more for next year is 741,105.
Dr. Terry, do you have a question?
So when we look at the cuts, I'm just looking at some of like, you know, the online platform. I'm wondering what sort of measure do you use for that? And are there any other tools that we're paying for that's potentially being utilized? I would love to see some more information about, you know, what we're paying for and how much it's being used. And another thing, so we're looking at cuts, but at the bottom here, I see that it looks like there's a proposal for 3 new positions: technology, CIA, and federal programs. So just help me justify
That's
the
not-
cuts versus. Okay, so that's not true.
That's not new. Those are positions that have been added within the last 3 years. We didn't feel it was fair to show one side of cuts and not show where we have added. Those have already been added. They are not proposed as new.
Okay, but I did get an email, like, I don't know, maybe a few weeks ago, that was something about a new position in IT, or I was wondering if it was a new position versus one that was being refilled.
No, sir, it's not a new position. I think there was one that was reclassified. I'm not sure if it was a land first. It was a land first and it was reclassified as cybersecurity, but it is not a new position.
Dr. Terry, in that, that was the cybersecurity officer back in February 2025, this board had approved for that position to be reclassified. It was the land engineer. And so the individual who occupied that position recently resigned. And so we are filling that position, but that is not a new position.
So you're saying we approved that? I don't remember seeing anything about a cybersecurity position.
Yes, February 2025 at the February board meeting, it was on there for reclassification on there.
Mm-hmm.
Madam Chair, if I may, Dr. Carr clarify, the textbooks also include workbooks and all instruction. Clarify that, please.
I'm sorry. This is a lot of work up here. Do that again for me. I need an increase in pay.
So when we talk about textbooks, we're talking not only about the workbooks that students get, but we're also talking about Canvas. So when we look at, you know, the platform that all of our high school teachers, middle school teachers use to teach, it's also included with Canvas, which is a platform we use. It also includes, like we talked about, Discovery Education, which is purely digital for our science. And it also includes, and I'm missing one, another digital platform that's required to help make sure that the curriculum goes. Not our particular one, for the self-contained, the unique and Goal Book. So it is including all of those different areas. So it is not, when you look at the 1.8, is inclusive of a lot of different areas. So that is the EC curriculums that we have for K-12. It is the K-8 math curriculum, which is the workbooks and the book that the teacher needs. It is also the education workbooks and the materials they need to teach. And it is also the online platform that all of our teachers need to teach for Canvas, using that platform so that kids can submit assignments, have assignments graded that all of our middle and high school teachers use on a regular daily basis to teach.
And then
Oh.
also clarify the technology assisted, that was hardware, it is now shift to.
So with the shift in, with ESSER, all these things came in, and so the technology assistant was added sort of as a position to help support all the new technology that came in. So that has really shifted more to what we call digital teaching and learning coaches, which is where we have people in every building that are identified that get a supplement so they're a teacher or sometimes a media specialist that gets a supplement that works with our technology department to learn how to use the various tools that we have, because it's really about the instructional pieces. So how do you use Canvas? How to use, at the time, Cami, how to use Infinite Campus. So that person is now responsible for helping coach people. So it's not about the hardware anymore. It's about how do we help teachers use the actual software that's available. And so that's where the digital teaching and learning coaches that we have in the building help support that work. So Lisa and Cole do a great job of coaching them and teaching them those tools, and then they go out to the teachers and help work with them.
And there's also was a shift as districts were grappling with a physical textbook versus a digital resource. We used to get a separate allocation for both. So then the state, I'm not exactly sure, it might have been 3 years ago combined. So the textbook allotment now is textbooks and digital resources together. There used to be 10 years ago a separate textbook warehouse at the state that you got an allotment from, and now they've combined those resources.
Miss Crystal had a question.
So talking about the textbooks, and that's through the high school, correct? Now, the pricing, I was just wondering if it's 1.8 and then you get rid of this, is that a discount that they're giving you, like by buying them together? Where if we just go separately, is it going to be higher?
So what we're paying for right now are renewals. These
Okay.
so we have not purchased anything new. The renewals are always a lot cheaper than when you do the
So it
initial
won't
purchase.
change.
Nothing's changing right now because we're renewing.
Okay.
Now, if we go and say we're adopting a new ELA curriculum, you're talking for just one curriculum, at least $2.5 million
One subject.
for one subject.
And we're paying
And-
that for everything, for all subjects.
Right now, everything for all subject is the 1.8.
We
Yes.
used ESSER funding to implement the curriculum that's in place now.
Dr. Erica, Miss Erica.
Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Emmanuel needs a break.
Okay.
No, you're the only one that gave me a tea.
Okay.
So could we take a little,
Yes,
yeah.
ma'am.
A 5-minute
So before we leave the cut screen, I did want to mention with the federal Title I cuts, specifically any of the positions, again, as I stand here before you today, we don't have planning allotments. These are cuts that may have to occur at the school level because of any changes to their individual budgets that they'll receive, but we can't calculate any of that yet because we don't even have a starting point. So all of these things could change in the future, and we're also going to be using our Title I allotment to help move forward with additional new computer hardware to support the one-on-one initiative that we started during COVID. That has to come from somewhere, and Title I at a district initiative is technology that we're looking to fund. So that's, again, money that would stay at the district to support the schools, but wouldn't be allocated to them as an individual budget. And then the last things that I wanted to mention, unless anybody has any additional questions, is again to reiterate the things that need to occur that we're going to ask for with our county commissioners. So I just wanted to show here what our per pupil support was in 97, 98, what it is now. Amount is increased. I think we've gone over that multiple ways, and you have that detailed information there. And the other part is to show what I included, to show why we're spending local money for different things in the state. PRC 003 is where we are supposed to pay for custodians, substitute teachers, and office staff. This fund 15 years ago paid for all three of those. It may pay for one, maybe one and a half now. And again, substitute teachers are an area we can't control. Our entire 003 allotment is projected to be $6.725 million next year. And last school year, we paid almost $6 million alone in subs. So this is another reason why we are asking the county for help in covering this. This is something we've absorbed, all of the salary increases, all of the retirement match, all of the hospitalization. We absorbed the salary increases from where they were to $13 up to $15. All of these areas, there's restrictions in ABC transfers that we used to have funds we could transfer to help in this area that we can't anymore. All of these things create a burden for us that we're asking for help with the county. And I just wanted to show that and give some context to that dollar amount. I've also included what our projected local current expense revenue would be for 26-27. This screen does not show every line item, but it does show the total dollar amounts. And you at your desk have the entire local budget planning document. You'll see that it shows a variance of $5 million based on the 25-26 that we just discussed, moving forward to 26-27 planning. That difference is the $3 million that we're talking about requesting for our county sales tax to transfer into local current expense, and the appropriated fund balance we used last year. But as I mentioned, we don't have a lot of remaining fund balance.
Ms. Erica, Mr.
Yes.
Craig has a question.
Okay.
It's not really a question, Ms. Erica, it's just a comment. When Dr. Williamson and whoever has the meeting with the commissioners, I know you can put all this to where it's not a lot of numbers, it's just a few numbers. And I hate to say it this way, but they can understand what we need in a
Yes.
short form.
Yes, sir. And I welcome any dialogue, and we'll put together any kind of presentation that I need to show this information.
But when the numbers, I know you can take care of it.
So this screen, this is kind of a snapshot of what we've been leading up to. The total immediate funding needs is 5,527, 3 million of that being the transfer. And I know you're like, please don't say it again. The transfer from capital outlay to current expense. But that does mean then we would request an additional 2,527,252 from the county on top of that $3 million transfer. And it's for all of these reasons. Transportation. We're in a war at the time. Fuel costs are rising and continue to rise outside of our control. Transportation, and I know you say I've beat this to a dead horse too. Transportation has been overspent in every year I've been here except for COVID, and I've been here 26 years. Robeson County is the largest county square miles, and we have to cover a lot of area for our schools. And the transportation funding formula has just never been enough to support that. The operational gap I just went over was a custodian substitutes office, and then I added in the school resource. That's also a gap that I mentioned in the fund balance that I gave you. But it's not 003, but it is state funds. And then exceptional children that we've already touched on before with contracted services. And the federal government says any services that need to be provided to a child in the exceptional children program must be provided regardless of your budget. I'm sorry, this screen is kind of small, but this shows what that would move what our current per pupil dollar amount would be and what that additional 2,527, 252 would take it to the requested dollar amount. It also, again, details the $3 million transfer from our own funds from sales tax to current expense, which represents $142.55 per pupil increase. You also have on the next page the projected,
Excuse me, can you go back to the previous
I'm
slide?
sorry. Yes, sir.
That per pupil increase that you're showing there of 861.60, is that based on the new ADM numbers?
Correct, it is. It's based on the 19,949. The current is based on the current year we're in, 20,389. The new requested is based on 19,949.
Erica, and the truth is that dollar amount may move us from being last to, that's correct.
And
That's-
Mr.
that's
Schwartz
correct.
shared a very good article from the, I'm sorry, was it the Border Belt, Mr. Schwartz? That discusses where all of us in the surrounding counties fall, reiterating the fact that we are the lowest per pupil in the state. So that was thank you for sharing that. And just to show the capital outlay revenue, we're back to what we normally would see in a capital outlay budget. The huge difference there again is the need-based building grant. We hope to finish that up towards the end of this year. We will have some expenses in the next school year, but that's why you see that large dollar difference there.
And why is the projected
I'm
state
sorry.
lottery less?
It's not that we would get less money in lottery, it's that we may have projects that either don't fit the criteria for lottery or, but it's not that our amount we receive that's in our lottery account stays pretty constant around $1.5 million. So we have a balance built up there. Just based on what we use for this year, that's a number that represents more. It could change if we put in new projects, but you're kind of limited what you can use that money for.
Madam Chair, let me ask. So Erica, now in terms of the $20 million that was financed, the balance of the Career Center, we projected our payment.
15, it was 15 and then interest.
Right.
Yes.
So none of this impacts our ability to be able to pay our portion of that.
No, sir.
Right. And then Bobby, once we close and open that building, what monies are going to be available to us, just as a reminder?
So again, we are approximately 3 months out from being able to get in the building. We are currently still under budget. So any money that's left over in that, we would get a portion of that sent back to us. But we're also in negotiations with a firm now that will apply for the tax rebates for our geothermal system that was put into the building at the time of installation. The rebates that were on the table were approximately $3 million. Now, since that time, of course, there's been some tax credits and other language in the laws that may have changed, but we were anticipating at one time at least 3 million. It may, not quite sure if that current language is still in place now. Yes, but it's going to be at least 18 months out.
And they're still trying to cost out solar panels, right? You had that conversation this
Yes,
week.
so again, we are, between Metcon, SFLNA, and myself, we are still looking at a possible venture to equip the building with solar panels. The building has been built with the infrastructure in place to handle if we are able to put them on the roof. So no running of conduit, nothing of that sort. There may be some breaker boxes that may need to change, but we are looking at exploring the solar panel option. And there could possibly be some rebates associated with that as well.
How much did you say we're under budget?
I would have to go back and look at our total budget. My next meeting's tomorrow, so I'll have updated numbers tomorrow. At one point, we were approximately a little over $3 million under budget, but we had technology in that. So our technology is going to push us down about 1.2 million. So we're hovering around, at this point, somewhere around $2 million.
I'm sorry, Bradley. Ask that again.
Mr. Bob, can you remind the public like the solar panel outfit and the, like lighting updates that we had talked about before? Like those solar panels, that wouldn't be physically costing us out of pocket. That would be part of the program that we had discussed.
Right. So we would have to foot the money up front. So we would have to pay for installation, pay for materials, installation, and then we would have to do the same thing we've done through the geothermal, is apply for rebates.
Okay.
That completes my presentation, Ms. Fields.
Are there any additional questions or comments? Trey?
I got a real short comment. Eric, I appreciate the job you do.
Well, it takes all of us.
Well, and I appreciate
It's
the
a
job
lot
you
to
do.
put it there. I appreciate everything that you do and everybody does to help support public schools. Because like we said, it's everybody's children and everybody's teachers and everybody impacts us. Thank you. And so
this is just a proposal, it's a potential proposal, not that it's going to happen, right? Hold on one second. Mr. Leach?
I would like to make a motion to accept this proposal to take to the full board with corrections of the CTAP second show. We want to put that back in. Also, with the local CIS, we want to put that back in. So I want to make that motion before we can take it to the full board, or make that motion. I would like to make that motion now to see if we can do that.
So you're making a motion we take local CIS and CTAP out
Yes,
to consider the others.
to consider the others, yes.
Mr. Bradley, you second?
I think Dr. Locklear has a question.
Dr. Locklear?
Can we hold off on making this official and just maybe vote on it during the full board meeting? Because if we make it official here, it'll have to have like a 2/3 vote on that side, right, Mr. Schwartz?
Oh, it's going to the board. This for the motion for it to go to the board.
As a recommendation.
Yes. It would be a committee recommendation to the board. It would only require a majority vote at the board.
I just think we need to take some time to maybe think about it a little bit more. I would have to.
Okay.
So I
A
need
motion
to-
and a
now I
second.
need to ask.
I got a
All in
motion and a
favor?
second.
Bradley was a second.
Can you clarify the motion now? The motion is to propose this to the full board with removal of the CIS and CTEC cuts?
Yes.
All right, all those
You can
in,
have a discussion if you want.
is there any discussion?
I'm actually not on this committee, so I can't vote anyway. Just clarify that.
Trey?
Just verification, Ms. Fields, that Dr. Terry, you are on this committee. Bradley, Vontae, and Crystal. So those would be the ones that you would want to vote from the subcommittee
Yeah.
to the full board.
Did you hear that, Dr. Terry? You are actually on this committee.
Yeah.
All right. Is there any other discussion from the committee members? All right. Mhm. So I just need all in favor. All right, those on the committee, all in favor of presenting before the full committee by show of hands? Trey, are you gonna? Okay, I'm sorry. It's three. That was Vontae.
The committee members are Fields, Britt, Locklear, Phillips, Leach, and Monroe, right?
Yes.
I recuse myself then, Mr. Schwartz, because I am on that
Okay.
CIS board.
Yes, you should, okay.
So that was,
So we got
Dr.
three.
Terry, did you vote yes or no? No? Okay. So Vontae, Crystal, and Bradley are yes. And Dr. Terry's a no.
Okay, so passes 3-1.
Mhm.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Erica. Are we going to still go into closed session?
We can combine. You want to do the close? I can put my portion of the closed session into the board meeting now. Give it. They've just approved this. So
That's fine.
I can go with what I was going to go.
Want to make a motion to adjourn?
We can't just yet.
Okay.
Okay.
So are we going to do it going into closed session? All right, we do have a motion on the floor to adjourn this meeting, second by Crystal. All in favor? Any opposed? Figured you wouldn't. You don't count. All right.
Pass 6-0.